today we got us another little project here working on the 34. As you can tell, I've already got the Hurst Comp Plus 4-speed shifter set up here, but we're going to take that back apart and I'm going to put a little bit of grease in the bushings because I forgot to do that step the first time. And personally, I think that a little bit of grease in the bushings will help it out a little bit, maybe make the bushings last a little bit longer. So stay tuned and we're going to tear this down and then put it all back together. So as most of you will probably know, on the bushing setups and like your shift arms and everything, you got this little pin here, like these little spring clips that hold your rods and all into the shift levers here, and we got to remove those first to get to the bushings. Now you're going to want to be careful with these and try to cover them when you pull them off, because otherwise they do have a little bit of a spring loaded tension to them and they will fly off and you might end up losing them. I've done that before and it took me a while to find it, so just try to be careful and try to put your hand over something to block it. It's not going to come off with enough force to necessarily hurt you, but it will make it fly and can make it difficult to find them, and it'll waste your time searching for one. So we're going to take this off first. I use a small punch and a small hammer to get them started coming off first, and then once you get it to about right there where you can get a pair of needle nose in it, take it and pull it off, and that way you keep it from shooting out. Now this is little bushings. Hurst puts these little nylon bushings or plastic bushings in the kit. You can buy from Jegs and probably from Hurst online, you can get their pit pack, which is they come with brass bushings, which I might upgrade to later on, but for the time being I'm just going to run these. Now these little nylon bushings will wear out over time and they might cause a little bit of slop in your shifter and the shift patterns and all, but for right now they'll be alright, and if they do get sloppy I'll end up changing them later. So we're going to take us a little bit of wheel bearing grease. We're just using some of this Coastal wheel bearing grease to put a little coating inside of the bushing. You don't need a whole lot. Obviously it's a small bushing, you don't need a ton, just a little bit to work it around. And personally I use a glove for this, but you know, just a little bit of grease in there. You're going to want to put some on the outside edges where it comes in contact with your shift lever here, and then also some on the inside where your linkage and all hooks up to it. Make sure everything's got, you know, a little bit of grease in there. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a ton of grease, but you know, just enough to coat it fairly decent. I actually dropped that one. That's got a little bit of much grease, but you know, that's kind of what you're going for there. Just something to help lube up the parts as they're moving back and forth against each other, and that should help to prolong the life of the bushings by having them lubricated. And then once you get it in there, you're going to put your linkage back up, and then we're going to put these little clips back in place. And again, I use a small hammer when putting these in place. Slide it down there and then just give it a small tap. You don't really have to beat on it because I have heard that these little clips will break. But, you know, just kind of give it a light tap, and that right there is locked in place. Now you can clean up on the outside, which I will end up doing. Clean up some of the excess grease that you see around the edges there, just to make it look better. You're not really going to be able to see it once it's under the vehicle anyway, but it will collect some dirt and all in there. But as long as the inside of the bushing has a little bit of coating of grease in there, it should work out alright. And as you can see, I did take a silver Sharpie and I marked the linkage and the shift levers and all, just to, you know, if I tear it down later, that way I don't have to fit and mess with which one goes where, so I just went ahead and marked it. Now obviously that is obvious, that is the 3/4 because it is longer, but I marked it anyway. But like these little levers here, pretty similar, but one's, as you can see, is turned a little bit, so I just went ahead and mark them to make sure that I know which one goes where. And now we're going to go on to the next one. This is a 1-2. So now we're going to tear into them. Like I said, hammer, punch, the same process over and over again. You can see that the clip started coming out here. Go ahead and grab it with your needle nose and pop it free, so that way you don't end up losing it. And then same process. Now some people might put more grease in them, some people might put less. Personally, I don't think that it really matters, just as long as you got a little bit in there to help lubricate everything while it's moving. Might be different if, say, you're using the Comp Plus shifter for drag racing, like what it was originally came out for, but just for a street vehicle, I don't think that it's really going to make too much of a difference if you're using more or less grease in it, just as long as there's something there. Personally, it'd be nice if hers just included the brass bushings in the kit as much as you pay for these kits, but apparently people have complained because the brass will cause a little bit more vibration in the stick and stuff, and these nylon bushings will give. I'd rather just deal with a little bit of vibration in there and have the better bushing from the factory versus having to, after spending a large sum of money on it, having to go back and spend another $15 just to get the proper bushings. But that's just my opinion on the deal there. So now you're gonna line everything back up. This is your 3/4 shift arm. That's all in line. Now we're gonna take this, we're gonna set it up right there. Take your little hammer and tap it in. Make sure everything seats on it and move on to the next one. And another thing I've noticed, now in my opinion, a Hurst shifter, probably the best shifter you can get for the 4 speeds and whatnot, but they have somewhat gone a cheaper route on their mounting plates that they give you. So that's a custom made plate here. It did not come with the kit. What they send you now, instead of having the old style mounting plate similar to that, they send you out this metal bracket like you see here. And how it works is you have to take out the 2 bolts that connect the main shaft or the main case of the transmission to the tail casing here, and you put this plate in there and then bolt it up. I mean, it'll work. I guess it works all right. That's the way we had to do it on the 3-speed on the C10, was do it that way because we did not have one of these plates. But personally, I like the plates better. Now, the reason on this transmission here that this plate here, this bracket will not even work, is because it came out of a vehicle that had the torque arm rear suspension. So you got this set up here, and some people think, oh, you can just cut that off. Well, you might be able to. You might also crack the case, but for this truck, can't do that because we are still using the old torque arm setup. As you can see right here, I got to clean it up, paint it. It's got to be cut a little bit, cut down and re-welded. It already was at one point right there. But so that is the reason that the plate won't even work for our application. And you can run it, I guess, just with those 2 bolts, but that's a lot of weight out here on the tail shaft, or on the tail of this bracket here, that nothing's being supported by, because these shifters aren't light, and personally I don't want it to be the shifter just kind of floating. Now on the 3-speed, it does not have any supports on the rear, but they came up, it's got a bar that comes from this side that mounts in, and then another one from the bottom that ties it all together where it can't move. This one just be kind of floating out here on the rear, and I don't know, probably it might be alright, but then again that shifter might start to move and it might get you out of alignment where you cannot find your gears like you once could with it. So that's why we did not run that route. Anyway, back to what the main purpose of this was. We're going to finish this up. I'm going to knock out your 1-2 shift arm. See, prime example. It fell out, and now we gotta find it. But I was just saying not to do that, and what I do, I did it myself. Anyway, so now once you find it, and yeah, don't do that. Now you're gonna repeat the process. You might have to move this into gear to you can put it in 3rd gear where you can get this out. You can pull your bushing off and you're able to get it greased up like it needs to be. But when you do this though, and you put it back in neutral, make sure that little hole, everything's lined up, so that way you truly are in neutral and you don't get your alignment and stuff off. So we're gonna put that bushing, get that all greased up, slide her on there and pop it into place. I did go a little bit heavier on the grease on that, but like I said, I don't think that it really matters one way or another. Put your little retaining clip back in there. And then just finish tapping it down. Now you can put it back in neutral. Everything lines up, so we're good. As you can see, we're all lined up. We got 1st gear, everything works. Now the last bushing to do is the one for reverse. So I'm gonna tap that out and make sure to catch it this time, not let it go flying off the table. Drop it down. And put grease in it. Now, I know that the grease will attract some dirt and all, but I do believe that it will help to keep these bushings in good condition longer, or as long as you can for nylon bushings, but it should help extend the life a little bit. And you're going to get a little bit of grit and road grime and dirt in there anyway, being this is under the car. Tires are going to fling up stuff, especially if it gets in the rain or anything, which I'm not planning on driving this in the rain, but it might happen one day. So you will get some, and I don't know that that'll be a huge deal. Obviously it's not, grit and all that stuff isn't good for bushings and bearings, but you can't really prevent it from happening when it is gonna be driven. Just daily conditions and all, even when it's not raining, you're still gonna kick up grime and road dust and debris. But that's part of driving a vehicle. Stuff's gonna happen. And like I said, later on, I probably will change, when these bushings wear out, probably will change these to the pit pack and go to the brass bushings, but for the time being, I think they ought to work pretty well. Got all of our gears working. So, thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you have a good day. So guys, if you have not already, hit that subscribe button, and also give us a thumbs up on this video if you like what you see.